This is on the third floor of a house. Makes it a little harder to swap out, but regardless, we're going to have some fun and we're going to get it done. I start by shutting the water off to the heater, and then I open the drain and get it pumped out. I open that T&P there just to let air into the system. That gets my pump primed, where I can start pumping it out. And then I take the water connections off, and that really lets air into the system, and it's good to go. Swapping water heaters out really is simple. And even from watching a couple videos, you could probably do it yourself. But keep in mind that there are some things that if you happen to miss or do wrong, that it could actually be dangerous. So I would think about that before you decide doing something like this on your own, if you're not a professional. Which, hey, a lot of you say I'm not a professional, so to each their own. But the risk you run is if you don't vent it properly, you could poison everyone with CO2. Or if you install the gas lines somehow incorrectly, don't tighten it enough or whatever, and you have a gas leak, well, that's very dangerous for obvious reasons as well. Or you could install a water heater in an attic and you use all SharkBite fittings and you use a SharkBite shutoff valve. And in just a couple of weeks, that shutoff valve starts to leak and you go on vacation for 2 weeks. And so you have no idea that it's leaking, and it causes so much damage to the entire house that pretty much the entire thing has to be remodeled. Drywall gets stripped, all the flooring gets redone, light fixtures get ruined, and even the kitchen cabinets. Not saying that's a true story, but hey, it's possible. That actually happened to a rental property we got called to work on. I was sent there to look at a leak, and turns out they had done that. They used SharkBite fittings, and it flooded the entire house. And they were gone for a long time, so they had no idea. So it was leaking for a really long time. But back to this actual swap out. It was a little hard getting it out, so I just dented the pan, start pulling it out. And if you're wondering, that's a normal size door. I'm 6'7", so that's why it looks small. And something that's worth noting is checking these pan drains. Yes, obviously you can see there's a drain there for the pan, but you really should check that and make sure that it's not leaking anywhere and that it's actually hooked up and going outside. That way you know you're covered in case of an emergency. But moving on, once I get this swapped out, I take a quick lunch break. I got the best setup. I got a microwave in the van. I got to do it for like 4 minutes because the microwave just doesn't have a lot of power. And today I'm eating some egg rolls. And if you're wondering why they look so plain, it's because I made them. I'm not the best cook, but hey, they taste better than it looks, I promise. Okay, I eat that for about 15 minutes and then I'm back to it. This is where it gets easy. Once you get the old one out, the rest is just pretty much plug and play. I had to fight the vent just a little bit, so I pulled those tabs up so I could get it in before I stubbed them down into the top of the tank. So in my state, by code, the flue has to have 3 screw connections. And also, at the top of the heater, it is required that we install screws into those legs. If they don't have a tab for it, you still have to toenail it through those legs so that it never moves from the top of the heater. That just needs 3 screw connections for that. And once the vent is fully on, that's usually the part that you have to fight the most. The water is definitely the easiest. And for these, I really like the Brass T Nipple 90 combo. It looks clean, it's an easy install, and it's a great support for the expansion tank. To me, it's better than strapping an expansion tank to the wall. This way, I have full confidence that the expansion tank is supported properly and makes for a really easy swap out in the future if you need to swap it out as well. It may be a little bit more expensive to do it this way, but it's definitely worth it. And if you're looking for recommendations on water heaters as far as the brand goes, I would definitely recommend State. I've had no issues with them. To me, it's a bad sign when I see the exact same water heater brand on every service call for a bad gas valve. To me, that's clearly a red flag to steer clear from that product. But sometimes you have to go with it, or in my case, we work for a lot of property management companies and we got to get what they want us to get. But in this case, I got to put a State heater in. So one thing you want to do with this expansion tank is check the pressure to the house, your water pressure, and you need to match that with the expansion tank. You can use a little hand pump and a gauge to pump it up to the correct pressure. And for the supply lines, no, I'm not in an earthquake state. I don't do that because of that reason. To me, this makes way more sense as far as time, money, and future swapping out goes, is to use flex lines. The only other option I would have here is to hard pipe it in something like copper, just to transition it to PEX, to me, that is a total waste of time and money. And that is definitely a comment I get all the time about installing water heaters, is using flex lines. And to me, it's just a matter of business. Business is about making money, saving time, and providing a good service. And I think using these encompasses all three. It may not be as shiny as copper, but it works just the same, saves you at least an hour of time, and it still looks pretty clean. And for the T&P pop-off release tube, I have to use either CPVC or copper. I typically go with CPVC as it's the cheaper option. And I tighten it down and I throw a strap on it, which is required as well. I've gotten a lot of questions about putting screws into the water heater, and just so you know, it is going into insulation. This is a aluminum wrapping around the actual water tank. Those screws do not go into where the water is. There's around 2 inches of foam before there's actually the water tank that holds all the water. And it would not be that easy to screw into that tank anyway. It is a lot thicker steel. And here I'm putting in the gas line. Please use pipe wrenches if you're going to be installing gas line. That's how you can really get all the turns necessary on there. You do not want this to leak. You want to get a good seal on there, and you want to turn it as many times as it can. And yes, I reused all the gas piping here because it saves them a lot of money, and that's what they wanted, so that's what I'm going to try and do. It's code for me to also strap that gas line to the tank there as well. And as always, I always check for leaks after installing gas lines. You want to be able to go home and sleep at night, and trust me, if you don't check, it'll keep you up. But that's it for getting it all put together. I turn the water on and I check for leaks and I let it fill up. While it's filling up, I almost forgot, I got to connect this drain line to the pan here. Just a simple nut and washer. Quick tip, channel locks are designed to go one way. As you can see, at first I was doing it the wrong way, and then I switched it to the correct way. I was doing it wrong at first because it felt more natural. And now I'm turning on the burner. You just push the button down on the pilot setting and you push the button for the Impiezo spark. That spark lights the pilot, and you can look down in that sight glass down there to see when the pilot is lit. And you have to hold that down until the light comes on. You'll also hear a click. Once you know that, that means it's gotten to the correct temperature. You can release it and turn the burner on to your desired temperature. Though by code, I can't put it past 120 degrees, so that's what I'm leaving it at. As a homeowner, you can change it to whatever you like. So that's it for the install. I put the cover on. I clean up my work area. I toss the old heater in my van, and I'm on my merry way. Thank you for watching, and I hope this helped.